Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I'm your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions. I also have a couple closed Facebook roadie groups called Death by Loadout and The Backstage Pass. Come over, check us out. We have a lot of fun over there. Tonight, off to my right, I have the one, the only, Kill Can Luke, my co-host, Kyle Thomas. How you doing, brother?
Not too bad, man. How about yourself?
You know, it's been a wacky, crazy week. I know you guys are out doing an install at a cool place that's got a special take on things. And
Yeah, been keeping me busy.
Yeah. It's one of those good problems. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And so we're grateful to have the work. And I had Uncle Paulie from SIR from Studio Instrumental in here last night, and we're plotting this little mission of this thing we're doing. So it's always fun. And,
you didn't even tell me about that.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, but we're going to keep it close
You
for a
and
minute.
Paulie are scheming.
It's Uncle Paulie, man. I got a scheme with Uncle Paulie. I mean, son of a bitch. I love the man. So it's been very good. We've enjoyable, keeping busy, staying out of trouble, all those good things. What's new with you?
Man, like you were saying, I've just been out at this install. Mike's been with me. He's been heading all the video, and I've been doing all the audio. We've been broken out. We, of course, got Sam Hurley helping us, and oh my goodness, help me with our project lead.
Really? You get Gary? Derek?
Derek, I always forget his last name, man. Van Nord. See, Mike's better than I am. With
Mike
names.
is the octopus. The octopus also
Mr. Van Nord. It's been several months since we worked together, so
Yeah,
I guess
right.
I have an excuse. But no,
It's funny.
It's been great to see him.
So
It's
you look at Derek Van Nord, right?
Yeah.
Little skinny guy, about 105 pounds wet. He's a championship motorcycle rider. He can do 30-foot tabletops. I mean, you never think that about this guy.
Oh, we were just
He's
talking about his
got
new
a room
bike.
full of trophies taller than him, right? He's toured with some of the biggest dead weather, Jack White, Jack Johnson. I got pictures of him back in the day, and he's like, you'd never imagine.
Oh, that was a
down to his
conversation.
ass, a fifth of Jack Daniels.
Sammy comes over and he's like, so which one did you tour with, or which time was that, with black or white? And me and Mike look at each other. We're like, what is he talking about?
He needs to be careful because
Jack Black or white.
He will put a man on his ass because he's this weird little package that doesn't look like he's got it in him. Oh, he's got it in him.
Yeah,
oh
right.
yeah, he will bring it. But at the same time, he also has this weird lane. That's why he's such a great project manager, is because he's so buttoned down. That's why we push him on. He does basically all of our corporate client-facing stuff. Me and my brother can't go out and do it. We're going to show up at let's say a computer company for a big meeting and whip out the wrong brand computer to do our presentation. We do dumb shit like that. So we send in the guys that are a little more considerate of things and that have the look and say the pretty words. And Derek's a master of that. But at the same time, he can tool around with our roadie asses any day and go one for one like all day. And his touring credentials are friggin' ridiculous.
We gotta get him on the show, man.
You know, Derek, he keeps it close. He's a family man now. He changed gears. He threw away the alcohol. He cut the hair. He's a button-down kind of plastic, fantastic polyester, pocket protector motherfucker. And I the next season
throwing pennies at his car outside his house. Come on.
I just do that for fun. That's a whole nother thing. But let's do some business of the house here. First of all, this is a special edition New Year's Eve show. Thank you for tuning in. We hope that you've survived somehow this magical, fucking wonderful year we've just had. And we got love for you. We're experiencing it with you, so you're not alone. This is part of the reason we do this thing. If you're watching us on YouTube Live, Facebook, Twitch, please push like and subscribe if you dig what we're doing. Remember, we got podcasts out on iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify. Stitcher. We kind of spread them on pretty much everywhere. Podbean, yeah. If you can get a podcast somewhere, we probably got our shit out there. And check that out. And of course, our brothers and sisters that are our good friends, Kyle, Michael, and Chris over at Signal to Noise podcast. They got about 70 plus episodes of some big brain shit. That's the place you go. I'm doing the rock and roll Johnny Carson. They do the big brain. You want to talk tech. You want to have some of the biggest engineers, which of course we have those as well. But we don't talk about that stuff. You go to Signal to Noise podcast. They got some amazing content and really great shows. And of course, we want to send our love out to the good people at EAW Users Group. As you know, we're big fans of EAW. I happen to think they're one of the best manufacturers in the United States. And a shout out to Jim Newhouse, their CEO. We got love for them. We're one of the few houses in the nation that provide the Anna Auto adaptive systems, which we swear by. I wouldn't be sitting in front of it if it wasn't something that we didn't dig. We got 48 boxes of the best gear pretty much in the world, the most advanced PA in the world. Check them out.
Oh, hey, that reminds me just of advanced stuff. We're still trying to come up with a name for our tech corner.
I've landed on name now. I don't think you want me to share it, but
no, don't share anything. Because
we have a rather risque name, but I think it's fucking wonderful.
we still need to get some user input here on maybe some name suggestions for a tech tip corner for YouTube and any other kind of instance on the show.
Are you soliciting the general public to help us with that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Like
Solicit.
I'm poo-pooing maybe Vinny's lovely name for the show.
You got to admit, for a sec, you were like, yeah, I could work. You just hated the part that after the little blurb, it says with Kyle.
No.
That's where you get a little lost in it. But
it's more the fact that it's 0 to 9.
It's funny and... it's a thinker.
It's 0 to 9 right now because no one agreed with me. It was all like, why do you have a problem with that? I'm just like, no, we'll wait. We'll get names from somebody else. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, please send them in.
The idea of this segment would be like a little 5-minute to 8-minute piece of tech tips that we're going to have Kyle do with special guests like Robert Scoville or Greg Price or Brad Max or Bernie Broderick. Some of the big hitters in the game, the techie dudes that have a lot to bring to the table. We want to add that in like we talked about last week, or I guess it was a couple weeks ago now. We're concerned that we're a little too much talking, and we need to break it up a little bit. We want to make it interesting for you guys, and so we're working on that. But help us out with a name, something that ends with Kyle.
Don't push for that. That's not true.
I like it. It's got a flair to it. But I still think the one part, the blah 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 with Kyle.
Yeah.
Just let it warm up. Just gotta let it get in there. And, you gotta trust me. It's gonna be good. All right. We appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. Listen, tonight we got a very special guest. I do this show in a very intentional way. One night we'll have on a white glove, stadium touring engineer from one of my friends that does the big shows. Then we'll have one of the best caterers in the business come on. And then we'll have a stage design set guys come in. We want to highlight the different disciplines in our industry because I feel like we've done such a good job in my 38 years in this business of staying behind the scenes that it seems like you guys don't know about us, or at least the larger world doesn't. So
that's called you're getting older.
And there's that too. I never deny that. It's getting out of this chair after this show is going to be a problem. I mean, I'm going to need your help. So I understand. And it's just part of the game, man. They always said you don't get rich in this business. You get good stories and bad backs, and I'm living proof. So it's just part of the game. But tonight we have a very special guest. He's a good friend from long back, a couple shops ago. We worked with him. He's come up the true, honest way. He's a sweetheart of a man. He can pretty much handle and do any audio position in the game. He always brings the love. And his special, what we're going to focus on tonight is his experiences, but also the fact that he has really made the union work for him. And the union being such a big part of our business, he's going to help me dig around in that. It's my dear friend. Please welcome Greg Shine. How are you, my brother?
Thanks, brother. Good.
It's really great to have you on the show. I miss you. I haven't seen you for quite some time.
It's been a while.
We follow each other on the interwebs, and so I wanted to reach out to you, and I did it quite intentionally. I'm very careful in how I book the show, and I know that you've kind of made the union lane your lane really, and you've made a great fit with it. And we happen to be in a region where we have a very strong union, in a city that really embraces the union way. And I think the union, when done right and pursued in the right way, you can have a great career, you can have a good living. And I want to talk to you about that. First, let me ask you how you've been doing it during the COVID-19 thing.
Well, just like everyone else, hanging in there, trying to make it happen. Unprecedented times, you know. So just trying to make it happen, get through it, you know.
Yeah. You're surviving it, though? You're making it work?
Making it work.
All right. No special tips? Anything I should tell them, people?
Nope.
Okay. It's a trick question, really. All right. You know, in the show, we're big on origin stories. We don't want to get too far into the weeds, but, you know, something brought you to audio. Something brought you to the business. Right. Can you tell us basically your origin story? How'd you get in the business?
You know, I was about 10 or 11 years old, and my mom had a console stereo in the garage that had broken down. She also had a brand new one in the living room. And after a few months, I heard this plap, plap, plap out of the woofer on the right side. And something said, try the one in the garage. Swapped them out. There it is. You know, changed my life. It worked very well. Then I ended up doing car stereos for my teenage friends. Became a mixed DJ about the same time as a teenager, and bought my own sound system. And you know how that goes. You have to make it work. Did a lot of proms and homecoming dances and things like that. And after a while, I think I was early 20s, and I said, you know, I'm done with this. I'm through. And went back to school. Ended up at American River College in their audio department. And Eric Chun taught me a lot of stuff. He taught me EQs and compressions. We had
Outboard gear.
Outboard gear. And once I finished the AA there, I ended up at San Francisco State with John Barsotti in the audio department.
Good old John Barsotti.
Good old John. And we went deeper in it, racks and racks, and showing us how to insert and patch bays and mix. He brought in bands, and it was pretty cool. Those couple of years there, I learned a lot. And I also got some names from him. He was like, you know, McCune's a good company. You know, they're local
John
boys.
John said that?
Yeah.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah. He said local boys make good. Well, he's just giving us tips, you know, his students. And then Sound on Stage, he had gone to school with Jerry. So he was like, Sound on Stage is top of the game. So once I graduated, those are a couple places I went to.
Well, let's dig around in that. You know, that's where I met you. That's how I know you. My brother was a general there, and you came on board, I want to say early 90s, maybe, around then. And we loved you from the gate. And so how was your experience with Sound on Stage?
Well, I got lucky. I worked with like the best company in the Bay Area at the time.
Definitely.
You know, because first gig that I ever did was Huey Lewis.
Sure.
You know, I'd gone in, and Jerry pretty much hired me on the spot. Said, I'm not going to put you to work today, but I'm going to call you. And sure enough, about a week later, he's like, 6 a.m., Africa USA, Marine World out in Vallejo. And I go out to the gig. It starts sprinkling as we're unloading trucks. And it picks up. So we put the space blankets over the consoles and the racks, and Jerry's on the phone, hey, you know, talking to the client, and it starts coming down. So he, you know, shut down the gig. I never got to do that one, but the next one was like,
honored. I still, to this day, I don't think I've heard quite like an eclectic style as John and Dennis, you know.
Right.
Those are two really solid cats out of that group.
It's true.
Yeah,
interesting. You said that you started, your first gig was with Diana Ross. She is a notorious, lovely woman, an amazing talent, known for being particular as it relates to her sound and her visage. And so for you to start at Diana Ross is a good way to cut your teeth on a true pro that knows exactly how it's supposed to sound and is not afraid to demand that she will have it a certain way.
And I was a bit player at the time. You know, I'm just moving monitors, patching mics. You know, I'm the gopher guy.
Yeah.
And I just spent, you know, a few months doing that. You know, they're not going to let a new guy fresh out of college, you know, do anything besides support. So I learned, you know, hierarchy of authority. You know, I learned when to say things, when to be quiet. You know, I learned to just sit back and watch and learn to do what I know to do today.
Yeah, now that's I wish that was a characteristic of more people that understood that there's especially we struggle with this on the show here, and I'm a little harsh about it, but we'll get folks coming here from the SAE or Full Sail,
right.
Or these expressions and other shops. other school things, and a lot of times they'll come in and we'll ask them, well, what is it that you consider that you do fresh out of school? And they'll say something like, I'm an A1. And then we have a good laugh and then say, yeah, well, you know, if you're going to work here under sound image, we got some rules, and that's about you're going to work around the shop and you're going to learn how we do this, and then we're going to need you to be able to fix pretty much anything in here and understand all. So but we struggle with that a little bit, but I think that is a critical prerequisite to succeed in this business is to let the old guys, by doing, show you how to get there. Right. And if you're just willing to be patient and watch and take your turn when it's your turn, it's incredibly important to the longer kind of haul of being successful. You know, I think you were talking about something about, you know, getting in the weeds when it comes to when there's a problem jumps off.
Oh yeah.
Well, in the shop, we sort that out here. You know, nothing goes out of the shop without me hearing it first. And there's a problem. I need to know that you can deal with it now.
That's the way you guys roll.
Yeah. So it's just to preserve the client, and you know, we're a service company. That's what we do, is we provide services, and so it's important. So I know, unless I got this wrong, you transitioned rather quickly from sound on stage. You took up with the union.
Yes.
Talk to me about that transition and what sold you on going the union route?
Well, the thing was, I was doing all of these great gigs. I was having fun. Top artists in the world coming through. You know, Jerry has a list just
great
like
clientele.
yours, client list, and it was fun and all. But I was fresh out of college. I had a chipped tooth I'd been wearing for about a year, and so I was thinking. And my mom would always say, "Get that tooth fixed, boy." So every time she'd see me, I'd visit her up in Sacramento. So it was on my mind. I'd run into these guys on gigs that were in Local 16. You know, Alva Thompson, Larry Baker. It's these people who like said, "Hey, dude, you know, come on." And they had full medical and dental, and I was a ways out. So, you know, this decision was kind of hard, but when I thought about it, it's like, get that tooth fixed, man. Come on, my income's gonna go up. So just do what you have to do.
It seems to be a little more consistency, you know, with the union, at least, especially in a city like, or a region like ours, where there's a lot of work available. So if you can do the game, So basically, let me ask you a quick kind of an aside, but related.
Sure.
The current health of the union, I know that it's been struggling just like any company or any institution in this unique time. How's the union system right now as it relates to how is it dealing with COVID? Is it struggling to maintain benefits and so on?
Well, just like what's your other website?
Death by Loadout and the Backstage Pass. Oh, okay. So you're talking about Loving Hands for Stagehands?
Loving Hands for Stagehands. Our communication is like that now. Everyone, just keep your head up. You know, stay with us, hang in there. This is going to be over, and they support the members in that way.
Great.
The office, just like your office and everyone else's office all over the world, has slimmed down because there's no work. You know, unless you're in a studio or you're working on movies, most of the staff has been cut. So that's where we are, just like everyone else, and we're looking out for each other, and hopefully, you know, we'll come out of this other end of the tunnel real soon.
Oh shit, there's no doubt about that.
Right.
You know, it's just a hang on, but it's kind of bloody knuckles, and our turn. We'll be back. You know, there's just no way we won't. I know historically you've done, and I know you do a lot of corporate and rock shows, and the numbers on those have kind of varied year to year. You know, the percentage wise, more corporate, more rock. But I know you've worked with the Eagles, Metallica, Stevie Wonder, Aloe Black, Lil Wayne, I believe. We did a Stevie Wonder, Aloe Black, Kelly Clarkson show, I think, together at AT&T Stadium.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we did that fire. Was it a benefit for Metallica did for the firemen when we were having the fires a couple years ago?
There's so many shows. They're a blur.
Do you enjoy working the big shows?
Actually, to be honest,
that's what I need from you.
When I hit 50, you know, mid-50s, when I hit 50, I had been doing this for 30 years. And remember, I had my own sound system that I was humping by myself. And the wear and tear, I was just like, I'm ready to be a boss, more of a shot caller, more of a steward. And so going out as an A1 on corporate shows happens to be my bread and butter now. So I've heard enough music for a lifetime. I love music, but for me personally, I don't mind getting a 6 or 7 day show in a convention center, mixing a bunch of takes, coordination, wireless coordination for 40 breakout rooms is not going to tear me up. And I'm getting paid the same amount of money that I am for working a big AT&T
more civilized hours and
Chase show.
Sure, Salesforce or whatever.
Exactly.
Well, I know that and we have this similarly in our company. I think maybe a little bit less so depending on the venue, because Union is largely venue specific.
Right.
So, but we do also work for some of the largest tech companies in the world, being in this area.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's it like? I find, from my experience, the corporate provides unique challenges. Tends to be a lot more rules, a lot more limitations. The clipboard marries, so. Tell me if you've experienced any special challenges working for. I know you've worked for folks like Facebook, Amazon, Google, Twitter, Apple.
Yes.
Also companies that we have relationships with.
Right. Well, you love psychology. I love psychology. Those have helped me immensely throughout my career, dealing with, just the different personalities, right? We're all cool, laid back in the shop, kicking it. But you get in those types of environment, and you're going to have to change your tune. You're going to have to learn how to deal with all the production managers, the TDs, the clients themselves, and being, a corporate A2, A1, A2. You're an A1, but you're an A2 because you're putting the mics on. You have to be cool. You have to, make people like you, be likable. You can't come in with that, grumpy attitude that we can get away with in rock and roll. But you can't get away with that stuff. You won't be back, So my whole thing is to make you look good so the client will hire you back. And if they hire you back, you're going to say, oh, we need Greg Shine back on the gig. So that's the whole thing. I know it sounds a little selfish, but I want you to have the best show. I want the client to thank you at the end of the run.
That doesn't sound selfish at all. It's actually more selfless. Again, if we... And this is a problem in our industry a little bit, the kind of, what, you know who I am, that bullshit. And I've had moments in my career in younger days when I, was all puffed up and thought I was somebody, working with Nirvana or whatever, because I was doing something that was kind of special, but it certainly didn't make me better than anybody else in the game. But it is important. I think what we're talking about is the psychology of the game. Psychology. And, I know that's something me and you both, I think, share in common, is a great respect for that. And understanding how to apply the best you in the moment that it's appropriate. What psychological tricks do you find?
I make everyone else feel comfortable, and that's been a key to success.
Absolutely. No, you couldn't be more right. I think depending, especially if you're running the thing, the way that you bring it in, the fish rots from the head down, Yeah. And so if you're not carrying it right, it gives kind of permission for the rest of the crew to take and shit to bed. And that's just not ever an acceptable outcome. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
If I could hop in with that brings me to a point. You know how you get on these shows and the truck's still in Vegas or something's going on,
Sure.
Audio gear's not here, stage isn't built. And I had a guy, I've had several guys do this, but I'll remember this one gentleman, 8:15, 8:20 in the morning, he gets the bad news. He said, oh, this is gonna be a cluster. I'm like, no, we're gonna knock it out of the park. It's gonna be a home run. Don't come up in here with that negative stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure you always stay positive.
No, you couldn't be more right. It's easier said than done. Let's be honest.
Is.
Okay, we're first ones in, last ones out, and sometimes you can bring your home shit or your personal stuff to the table. But definitely when the challenge is presented, and Lord knows we've had them in the thousands of shows that we've done, that they come up, and I think that's when you show your mettle, and hopefully if you're in a leadership position. That's when you don't get to show much. You got to show the good side of it, and we got this. We're fucking, we're the firemen. That's
exactly.
I know I get less satisfaction from shows when everything bump, 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 when all the cylinders fire. It's a little cut and paste for me, you know. When something jumps off, when you know, we had that, I shouldn't name a name, but let's say we had one of the world's biggest rock stars, and there was a powering issue with the amplifiers, and when the band came out and the first kick of the kick drum dropped everything. Just so when it pulled that power down, and there was some issues, and it was dealt with in, I think, 47 seconds. And it was, you know, in our business, 47 seconds is like a fucking year. Exactly. But it was dealt with professionally and quickly and calmly, and although it wasn't something that the 20,000 plus crowd didn't notice, and let alone the star, it was dealt with, and there was a certain amount of pride. Of course, we beat up the guy who was responsible for the problem, but that's just a life lesson for him, and made us feel a little better. But those moments, I get a weird satisfaction out of, when there's a little extra challenge. It can be boring otherwise. But what is, in your opinion, and I think we might have touched on it, but bear with me. What, in your experience, does it take to pull off a professional production? Now, when I'm saying a production, I'm talking about the whole thing.
Picture, yeah. Well, quality people, right? The ones you know, the ones who aren't quality right off the bat. Give them jobs in their wheelhouse.
Put them on the feed.
Number one, yeah. And number two, come in with the right attitude. I mean, when I go to shows, I'm always like, we're going to hit it out of the park. This is going to be a flawless, successful show. That's my mindset. It has been for decades. And if you come in with it and you through osmosis, the other people on your crew feel that, I give my crew pep talks. I can't talk to the whole, lighting and carpentry or whatever, but audio crew, if I have 10 guys or 6 guys, I tell them right off the bat, we're local 16. This is sound image. We're gonna kick butt. So do the best you can for this client, and let's make it happen. A little rah-rah in the morning.
Couldn't agree with you more. That needs to happen more. We kind of do that here, and at least my best version I can muster. But we mean it. There's a sound image way, and this is a company that's been around for decades, and has built a hell of a client roster. And I'm not about to let anything leave here, or anybody leave here in any way better other than prepared and in a good place, and kind of armed to fight the fight. Right. I never want to be responsible for sending somebody out unable to complete the technical challenges because we didn't give them the tools.
And we're very fortunate. Yeah. I mean, you think George, you, me, we've worked with the top people our whole career pretty much. Yeah, we've had some, but
I've done a shitload of club shows too, but that's what helps you get to the top people, doing hundreds of club shows and punk rock shows.
We've been very fortunate though, to be trained by some of the best. Absolutely. To be paid by some of the best. It's a good thing.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I wanted to go to a place that we have in common. I know it was different times, but something that I was able to derive a great deal of pleasure out of in the experience and the effort and the unique preparation that goes into it, and that's mixing for President of the United States.
Right.
Now, so talk to us about your experience with that. Which president was it?
President Obama, twice. Definitely highlights of my career. I haven't had anything for me to surpass that. So as I think about those days, and I was born in Mobile, Alabama, in the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And my grandparents didn't get to see that, and for me to experience it and actually push the faders, those recordings that we did are in the Library of Congress.
Oh yes, they are.
Forever.
That's correct.
So, hey, that's, that feels pretty darn good. And, like I said, highlight of my careor. And they weren't huge it was just,
Well, set the scene. What was the environment?
Eight speakers on a, front of house truss and, a main truss. And it's really about the bird and the records and hitting that IR to play. What's the song?
Hail to the Chief.
Yeah, Hail to the Chief. Mm-hmm. And, that's it. And just making it through security. I thought they were going to dig out something when I was 16 years old. I was really thinking, hey, am I going to get away with this? And sure enough, they let me do it twice. And they didn't dig back past 18 years old. So that was great.
I didn't know how far they went back on mine, but I was convinced I was going to get
You're
the
gonna
axe.
get that. I was
Lord
too.
knows I did enough stuff to deserve it, but at the
Exactly.
same time, I was also competent enough to do the job. So
Right.
I think some math was done that got me the Secret Service pass and the clearance
Right.
because otherwise
We
I was
both
kind of shocked. I won't lie.
Yeah, we both were worried.
Yeah. There was a little jail time, little police record. Some
Kid stuff.
ill-gotten,
Kid stuff.
misspent youth shit.
Yeah.
And we already talked about working well. It is such a key, working well with others.
Oh,
It's so critically important. Let me ask you. I know you do a lot of corporate stuff. We talked about that. You've done a
Right.
batch of cool ass rock and roll things. You came up with us. It's, pure,
Exactly.
almost pure rock and roll. Do you have a preference for the corporate work versus the rock and roll work?
Well, as I mentioned
And why?
before, the wear and tear. Number one, we're not spring chickens anymore. I mean, when we were in our 20s and
Speak for
30s,
yourself, Greg.
when we were in our
the
20s
hell,
and
buddy?
30s, we were throwing up boxes by ourselves. You didn't even ask for help. You know what I mean? And we load trucks at 3 in the morning and we're going full steam ahead because we got to get the gear out. So that was an earlier iteration of me. You know what I mean? That was an early example of me. Now I'm aware that, being the age that I am, that the corporate shows tend to, be pretty cool. You get full catered, really good stuff, top chefs in the world.
Yeah.
You're there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days sometimes. So you got those overtime days. Where
Great money in
you
your-
might
in
have
your
a
game.
12-hour time and a half day or double time day. And that's pretty nice. We don't get that in rock and roll. Maybe on Outside Lands and what's the other one you do, Bottle Rock and stuff like that. You guys are out there before, working with the clients so you can build that. But yeah, for us, it's like the Apples and the Salesforces and the Oracles
Yeah.
and all those other companies. Now you got Facebook and Twitter and Amazon and Instagram. And people were just saying that Oracle's
They're
doing their
moving to
big show.
Texas,
They're
man.
moving to Texas.
Yeah.
And I was saying,
I don't know what
dude,
that
I've
means.
seen companies come and go. And someone always fills the void. We're the Bay Area.
That's
We're
right.
the belle of the ball.
Well, we're highly, real estate is, we have a real estate agent in the house tonight. And
Right.
and then my dad always tells me the 3 rules to real estate is location, location, location.
Right.
And so between the unique mindset of the Northern California population, the beauty of the geography, I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think we surpassed, and this is not necessarily something to be proud of because it's extraordinarily expensive to live that dubious title, but it's because it's a beautiful, amazing place
Right.
with a ton of opportunity. And you just named a bunch of the companies that help us do that,
Right.
that provide opportunity for us.
I forget where me and Mike were talking about some house. And it was like some other state that it's slipping my mind right now, but it made me dawned on me. He's like, yeah, $750 a month for like a 5-bedroom house for the.
Well, that's basically, you haven't been across the country a lot with
But-
touring
but
yet, but
my-
it's pretty much the whole middle of the country.
Right. But my point is like that's like half of my rent. What I'm renting.
And how many rooms you got?
2.
So that's not bad for being you're in Berkeley, right?
Yeah, I've been
That's
there for
not-
several. But still, it's
Yeah.
the math. It
Yeah.
really blows my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
But then you get into the problem, and tell me if I'm wrong. So you get to, let's say, fuck shit, Oklahoma. Don't take that wrong, Oklahoma. That Oklahoma, which I've been through many times and was happy to continue driving through to get out of there.
You're not.
Yeah, I don't care that they're going to hear this. I really don't care. Dude, I'm telling you, when you're in Oklahoma or Kansas or Missouri, the opportunities go down a great deal. Now, yes, it costs less to buy gas. It costs less to eat. It costs less to utilities. All of it costs less, but you also make less. So there's a thing going on there. It's not a fair comparison. The money here, because it's pretty, I think, accepted that you have to live the wages have to be higher to compensate for the expenses to be higher to live and get quality people here. I'm pretty sure that's why Oracle picked up. Well, Oracle can still get quality people. Matter of fact, with an Oracle type job, people will follow Oracle. and they're going to get tax breaks. They're going to get all kinds of concessions,
Tax right
and it's
there,
going to be cheaper for them to operate. And I think it's just that simple. And plus, Texas, in many ways, if you go to the right parts of Texas, Galveston area, Austin area, can be very metropolitan. You go into West Texas, and it's not for you. It's you know what I mean? It can be rough. This is a state with 258 counties. It's a very big place, and it can be very different. So the direct comparison actually doesn't work identically, but it does sound compelling. Yeah, you know, $750 for a 5-bedroom with a pool.
Well, some
try
with our
earning
job.
$750 in fucking Oklahoma, bitch.
With
It's
our
not-
job,
yeah.
it's like most of the time you have fly dates if things are up and running out of COVID. If you have to rework things and make that work, and you could, hypothetically, I mean, shit, that's a ton of savings. But at the same time, you are in California, and this place is pretty rad.
It's pretty great, you know. But
awesome.
even California, and this is we're kind of straying a little bit, but I think it's a conversation that's worth having. And even in California, I have a theory that the enlightenment comes from the proximity to bodies of water. So the closer you are to a body of water, like on the right coast or the left coast, tends to be a more open-minded place. Why? Well, because you're the border of a whole nother world. So the first stop for the people coming from these other worlds that you then have to learn to commingle and interact with is the coastal communities of this part of our country. The farther, and this happens pretty rapidly, you know this right here in California, that the mindset, the energy, the vibe changes by the time you get to Sacramento or Fresno or Stockton or Bakersfield. It is a very different state in those places. And it's a much more conservative view. It's a much more...
Our weather isn't the only microclimated thing.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure in my long-term analysis of this situation is what kind of makes for the differences is the bodies of water. It really comes down, and this can be lakes. This happens in Chicago. This can be, you know, on the Gulf. New Orleans is very different than other parts of Cajun country.
Totally.
Because it's on a body of water. It's just how it works. I could be wrong.
Great theory.
Well, it's a little flawed because there's this place called Florida that fucks with my theory. But other than that, sorry, I'm showing my stripes tonight. I apologize. I'll behave.
You are. You're on
you know.
5 cylinders today, bud.
The news has been irritating the shit out of me lately, but I'll keep that to myself. Maybe too late. Something I know that you are particularly good at. Something that I know in our industry, some heads they're like, oh, not me. RF coordination.
Right.
You know, I know when we get the big shows and we get them, you know, we get Lady Gaga coming in and she's got all kinds. She's got her dancers all mic'd up in backgrounds, you know, and then there's all this RF going on. We'll bring in some hot shots that just sit behind the board, just behind the computer and just coordinate.
Right.
What's your take on that? How did you carve out that special lane for yourself?
You know, in Local 16, you have to be able to put on many hats.
Sure.
You know, so it was just form and function. I mean, I learned it from you guys, and you know, I don't do it as much as I do front of house or backstage A1, A2 miking, but I'll occasionally, a couple times a year. I'm not that guy who goes out and does only coordination.
Sure.
But sometimes I get the show. I'm the A1 who's doing coordination for the Marriott. There's 40 breakouts, you know, and then you gotta whip out your workbench and make it happen.
Yeah.
Do you use
So,
any RF Explorer or anything?
You know, I never bought the Explorer. I've been able to, you know, pull it. Like I said, I only do
You just do it with Workbench?
with Workbench. I only do full coordination, maybe 2 or 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, I'm the front of house A1 or the backstage A2, and you know, it's easy. It's easy if you're not getting the numbers like a Lady Gaga. You're getting you know 30 or less frequencies. It's really easy. The computer does it for you.
Yeah.
You do your checks. You got your backup freaks. I shouldn't say it's a really easy job. Some of my business agents might be watching it, but it's one of the easiest jobs as far as less than 40, you know.
You know, I think it has to do with the mindset that you come to it. If you understand the tools and the principles of coordinating RF, then it doesn't seem so daunting.
Right.
But there's
no
just,
cues.
Yeah.
There's no cues. There's no mic swaps.
Right.
You know, you get your frequencies on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you might have to change a frequency or two.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
you're getting paid to be the fireman, to be there ready
Absolutely.
to change a freak and make sure it doesn't step on other freaks, you know.
Oh, and it's a great thing with the Axient rigs now.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Spectral Manager, you don't have
True.
to do anything.
True.
Right.
No more burning a pack, nothing. It's
Right.
like, it's all right there for
It's
you.
a little more friendly. It's a little more user friendly.
You gotta have one pack, be able to scan everything from your IEMs up to, it's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was bound to happen. You know, that's that turnover we were talking about. The technology turnover that is so rapid at our age. It's it's critical to keep up. But it's also kind of hard because it's happening so rapidly. There's so much, and we use so many different, based rider-specific gear. So one day you got to brush up on the Digico platform and its information, or the newest fucking wireless shit, or then jump over to the S6L or the Pro Tools rigs, or all the different things, and they're always kind of moving forward.
And if they're not audio engineers, people don't have a clue, that we have to learn all of these different pieces of gear, and that one's obsolete in 18 months. Well, not obsolete, it'll still be in inventory, but there'll be a new one you have to learn. I mean, we had to learn line arrays and predictions. We had to learn digital boards. We're analog guys.
Yeah.
Did you ever do analog?
Oh, yes.
Kyle? You did? Okay, but, we went from, 10.
This one right here, sharp as a tack.
I know. I watched the
Little
show.
bastard. He's really good.
Yeah, 10, 12 years of nothing but analog, and now it's like, we've got these Yamaha digital boards, these DMs, and, dig in there, all the processing's inside, and, you'd be like, what? Now I got to learn.
Well,
and
it's
it's
funny,
going.
we were just talking about this, and like, interestingly enough, it was tied into, and this is no rip on any sort of brand that pushes this concept, because it's really good core concept knowledge of like a line array. But just the concept of a true line array is infinitely large. That's never gonna be applicable
linear.
ever. You're never gonna have an infinite PA. So all these things are very arbitrary, and it's great to learn and have the book knowledge, but it only goes so
Takes
far.
you so far. That's as simple as that. That goes back to the SAE expressions thing. You can read all the books you want and watch some videos on the YouTubes or wherever the hell you get them from. Until you physically
Get in the
do
trenches.
the work, you go from a shed to a venue to a stadium to a whatever to the fairgrounds. The applications are constantly changing. And you, to get the best results, need to understand the gear.
And in no way is saying
what
that,
its capabilities are.
In no way in saying that I'm saying like don't learn the concepts, like nothing like that. But it was really like at that
Concepts
moment,
help.
it just was that dawning moment. It's like, okay, and maybe you could do it with your ears if you wanted, or you learned it a little different or whatever,
Well,
or use
I
something
absolutely know that it can be done with your ears.
else. Sure,
Exactly.
I am completely in
Yeah,
agreement
I
with that.
absolutely 100% know that, because we were doing it for decades that way.
Long
And
before
we
that.
put on some pretty fucking great shows. And no hubris involved in that. These are it's a little subjective, but no, it's true. We did. You guys and your digital shit didn't come and save the day.
No, it's
just
you got to
the
remember,
evolution of
Vinny.
it.
I told you this. It still scares me when I see the RTAS overlayer in the Lake processor, and I'm just like, oh, boy.
Oh fuck!
Well,
To me, it's like electric windows on a car. It's just one more thing to fail.
Right.
The more you put in but I know that there's a lot of. I'm still a guy where I believe a plug-in you actually plug in.
Right.
So, but I understand that there's some amazing technology out there. We're training constantly. Just on the other side of this curtain here, we've got an amazing monitor rig set up where we do a lot of training on. Pretty much almost every day, we've got some folks in here, figuring out the ins and outs. And they just did an update, for example, on the Avid product, the S6L, that is so dense. It's almost like it's like almost a whole new board. Like all this shit that it can now do yet more. And it was already, so it was like an onion that had infinite layers. You just keep peeling it back and, oh, it can do that as well. It can, virtual center and blah, blah, blah. Right. It's a thing. So I don't envy the kids coming up, on that. At the same time, I would say it's their turn. Our job is to hand it off in a way that they're...
Get in the trenches, baby.
That's right. And I think, when we were coming up, you know, when me and my brother came up, we were little punk rockers, and we got kind of a little extra push by being like kind of cool weirdos in the game that just loved music and loved sound and loved the gear, and were kind of tough, and you know, and so we would kind of quickly graduated from punk rock shows and small club shows to working with the big boys, Eddie Money, and you know the stars of the days back then, Greg Kinn, you know, Tina Turner, whoever, Smithereens, and they kind of liked us because we were a little bit freakish, you know, we were like, you know, I had a Tweety Bird yellow mohawk and you know, a little bit of a spaz and a little bit of a pistol, and so it pushed us forward. But that was the cool part of the rock and roll scene. Right now, what the rock and roll scene needs, because of the rider-specific gear and the technology that drives it, is we need the kind of and I don't mean this as a pejorative, but I think it's not far from wrong. It's kind of, for the lack of a better word, it's kind of for the nerd's turn to kind of be cool and get to play with the gear and get to be in the mix. And then hopefully we can mix with them and we can impart some rock and roll theory and how to do this stuff. But at the same time, you know, in a digital world, I didn't grow up with a laptop in my crib. I didn't have a cell phone from, you know, this didn't exist.
From the day you were born.
Yeah. So it's their turn, and I'm blessed with having some young guys that are like Michael and
we
Kyle
pre-test everything. He's not allowed to touch it if he can't run Doom.
They won't let me touch the stuff. They're like, get the fuck away, old man. And so, you know, then I beat on them, and then I get to play with it and mess it all up. It's a lot of fun.
The computers are a great help, but we've all been on shows where guys sitting there dialing it according to the computer. He's not listening.
His ear is not in the game
listening.
at all.
He's not, you know, it's not a part of it. And I've walked into rooms, this guy's been twiddling with this darn smart all day. It sounds like, you know what? And I'm like, you know, shut down your computer and just listen. You don't hear that 2.5 running around. You know, you don't hear that 400.
That's one thing on shows I've noticed. You don't hear people text calling frequencies.
Right.
Oh, 2.5 is getting away. 1K is flying out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't think that, I know you actually pretty good at calling frequencies.
Yeah.
I've seen you do it. But I don't hear that much anymore.
You want to know what's funny? We talk about school, and I know you shit on it, even though me and Mike both.
I'm trying to get over that.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm trying to accept that there is some good there.
I'll point something out that I think is very valid to that, is that critical listening is not learned in the way that you would learn a technical skill, because we all perceive sound in a very like unique and special way. Like certain songs I look at as like not genre specific, but like times of my life, kind of.
Sure.
So I feel like it's very similar with that, you know?
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I think you've seen me trying to transition out of the school bashing thing. I absolutely accept that they provide a certain foundational
I'm just saying, it's that critical listening. Like the one thing I think the biggest help I ever got was advice by Jack Douglas, where he's like, you know, you really want a critical listen, go for your morning cup of coffee. Maybe when COVID goes out of the window, you can try this. But it's like, just close your eyes after you get a cup of coffee and maybe sit in the middle of the room and chill out and just try to locate things and really just be able to close your eyes and focus. Because like that's half the battle. We're all based off immediate gratification. Y'all want us to get things done faster instead of just stopping and taking a minute to analyze things. We talked about like going up on stage and listening to a drum set before you just start slapping some EQ and all this shit all over it. It's like you don't even know what it sounds like, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, I feel like if you get the mix right in the drums, everything else is cake. You know, I've always had the issue with the drums, you know? Yeah. And so, and you really understand if you got I think that's where Greg excels. He really focuses on the drums. And Brad, to the degree, having been with Rush for so many years. But they would preach that to the end of time, that is the secret to a good mix, is dialing the drums and working out from there. Yeah. And it's you know, there's certain tenets of the game that we do, that we work in, that's always going to be the rules of it. Yeah, it just...
Well, you could do it to anything, you know. Oh, I'm having a hard time with the guitar. It's like, maybe instead of doing a bunch of shit on your console, you walk up and
put the baffle of shame over the
No, not the baffle of shame. Maybe you change the tone of the amplifier or something, you know?
That's, you know, the minute you're coming off the stage, the guitarist is like waiting for you to turn your back and he's fucking turning it up. You know, this is what happens every goddamn time. It's okay. I am absolutely willing to break out the baffle of shame. I have no worries. I will do that to you. You got a favorite memory working a corporate gig?
favorite memory, met Muhammad Ali, my
that's
childhood.
too
You know,
cool.
that was cool. Took a picture with him. I got to find it. It's an analog picture because it's
Sure.
20 years ago. And then about 10 years ago, just before he passed, a year or so out, he was a special guest on a corporate show, and I was the guy on that, and it broke my heart. Seeing him staring at the table, going like this, you know, the Parkinson had set in, and I had tears.
Terrible,
tears
disease.
just start.
Terrible disease.
So the good time is the first time. It was a Think Different show, and that was a campaign for Steve Jobs and Apple.
Sure.
They brought him out, and he was there with Gregory Hines. And I mic'd them. I think Matt Rodriguez, another A1 in Local 16, he ran Cow Palace for a decade.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah. So I'm in the green room, Mike and Ali. I said, you know, I really want to get that poster of you going like this with somebody
Famous
on the
poster.
ground. You know.
Sonny Liston.
Yeah, I want that. And he says, hey, I'm like, what? And I was kind of embarrassed. He said it again, hey, magazine. I'm like, sorry, sir. Can you tell me one more time? He said, Ring Magazine.
Ring
and I'm
Magazine.
like, Ring Magazine. Okay, contact them. This is before digital, you know, so we didn't have posters.com. And hung out with them backstage for a little while, and Gregory Hines, and that's a good,
Another
good-
amazing
lots-
human being.
Yeah, lots
Triple
of
threat,
memories,
could
yeah.
sing, could dance, could act.
Oh, yeah.
He was a badass. He died way too early.
Way too young.
Yeah. Whereas Muhammad, I think at some point you got to ask yourself, do you stay too long at the party?
Yeah.
You know, because he was such a beloved figure and he touched so many lives. So many people wanted to model themselves after his. I mean, the inner strength of that man. If you think about his career, was such a shame that the establishment came down on him for his very
Standing up
legal stance. That's a legal thing to be a conscientious objector based on a religious, belief system.
Right.
And for him to be taken out of professional boxing in the 3 years of his prime was friggin' crime. I can only imagine the fights that he
And
would
at
have got
that
up
time, for a black man to talk back to a white man was, you know,
It didn't.
it didn't go over
he
well.
paid for it.
He
in
was the
many
first
ways.
one to really
millions
do
and
it.
millions of dollars he lost for that.
He lost his medals,
Yep.
you know, and sent him to jail, and you know,
Outrageous.
that's why he was the athlete of the century.
Yes.
He stood up for what was right,
Mm-hmm.
changed the mindsets of billions of people on the planet. So yeah, he's still my hero.
Amazing guy.
That was a great memory.
Yeah, that's a nice memory to have.
With the actors, it's really cool because they're all ready to be mic'd. They have special pockets. The seamstress and wardrobe people are the top in the world. So you have a place to put the mic, place to put the antenna. You know, microphones are in wigs and and eyeglasses and hats. So that's cool. It's part of our art, you know.
Definitely.
To get that sound, and if you check out rehearsals and you're like, dang, I did a good job. That sounds so good. Listen to that guy. So and they're usually 30-day runs.
Sure.
Sometimes 6 months. So I worked on one of my first ones was West Side Story. Blew me away. I was more involved in watching the show than I was.
Were you familiar with it?
No.
That's
I wasn't.
it's a great
There's so
story.
many
Yeah.
things we don't know anything
Sharks and the
about
Jets.
until they get there.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
Yeah.
legendary in my childhood.
Dude,
too.
and
Did you see what that is?
yeah,
That
totally.
is the way to do it. That's almost like saying West Side Story. You don't even have to say
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that. And it's,
So that's a highlight.
Classic shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I did Cabaret. I did another month or two on that at the Curran. It was at the Curran.
Great
And I
theater.
got to work with all the OG carpenters with the best jokes from Local 16. You know, most of them are retired right now.
Sure.
But that was cool being a part of the brotherhood and being accepted, and these guys telling all these cool jokes. And it's pretty cool. I remember one day, show was going. Gentleman comes up to me, come here. He says, check this out. And he opens up the drape just enough, And there are the cabaret girls, like all right there. He's like, what? I'm like, oh my God,
That
that's
is
the
naughty.
brotherhood. Yeah, very
that
naughty.
Is some Donald Trump at the the behavior.
No,
Did he
the
do that? I like it
OGs.
there.
The OGs, they did stuff like
I
that.
know,
It
I
wouldn't
know.
fly today, but
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah.
25 years ago.
Yeah. It's one of those attractive nuisances. It's almost
Yeah.
It's hard to not do that.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, exactly.
We have some funny ones, but they're a little too X-rated for this one. Cabaret shows are the best, but they get a little unruly, I feel like, from time to time.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's it can be very fun, but it's maybe not something you bring the kids to. Regardless, you've been in the industry for over 25 years.
Yes.
And we're in this unique hour in our industry. Let me ask you, with all your experience, and I know you've been paying close attention to the recent goings on. What do you think the future holds for our business, for our industry?
Well, I'm an optimist. I am an optimist, and I was a little too optimistic at the beginning, too much of an optimist at the beginning. And I thought, like everyone else, August we'll have a vaccine, or things will get back to normal. This thing will blow over. And I actually went on a post on like our own page, and I said that, and everyone was like, "Take this seriously, Greg." And I might have been 2 beers in that night or whatever, and I'm like, "No, we have the best scientists in the world," because we do work with the best scientists in the world on these conventions, and I really had faith, and I was just a little naive about it. Now, it's scary, bro. It really is scary. Unprecedented times. I mean, what was it? They called it the Spanish flu, but that COVID back in, 1918?
It was called the Spanish flu. It was
Yeah.
from Kansas, from a Kansas meat pack. We just like to, as a country, to make small
Spanish
other.
Army,
Yeah,
it
we were
got
terrible
wiped
that
out
way.
by-
It had
yeah.
nothing to do with
It had
Spain.
another
or the
name,
Spanish
didn't
people.
Didn't it have another name?
It was. It's largely known and is accepted as the Spanish flu. And
Right.
That was a pandemic that took out 30 million people.
Exactly.
And so, but that was because, and even at the time, if you look back historically, again, being a student of history, even then, they had much less of an understanding of the world of the infinitely small, which is things you can't see.
Microbes, yep.
But they did understand that there was a link, and pretty rapidly, as much as people could with their understanding, the science at hand, and the materials available to them, they started wearing masks. There were whole cities that were able to avoid it by instituting mask systems. But because the understanding of science, there's some religious objections. Some people think it's fucking with their freedom, so on and so forth. We won't get into the depths here. This is something that can be very touchy because of the vast
I could have
opinions
sworn
on the issue.
one of the Vince random facts of the day was this thing had another name. It must have been another
Inane
topic.
facts. Cliff Clavin, inane
Yeah,
facts.
it was like, I think it was a COVID, I think it was.
Well, most strains. So the flu is not a COVID strain, but many H1N1, SARS.
H1,
these were
it was H1.
no, that's a modern one. So H1, these are all different types of
It wasn't
COVID,
H1N1?
coronavirus type viruses.
Right.
So that's a group of viruses. There's many different groups of viruses. Flu strains tend to be freestanding strains. That's
Okay.
why there's many every year. It's kind of a guess what flu vaccine to put out because
Right.
they're not really sure which version of the flu's coming to the shores.
Right.
And I think we're probably seeing less of it this year, less flu, because we're doing distancing issues, sanitizing issues, masking issues that are keeping us a little away from each other. So it's keeping the prevalence because there was a pretty large concern that we'd be dealing with a two-tiered illness,
right.
respiratory illness thing that could lead to some real problems, a considerably larger amount of deaths than the terribly tragic numbers we're already seeing. So in some ways, we've kind of mitigated this year's flu pandemic, or flu season. But in a weird way, a flu is a mild, when it comes to a country and it has its own season, is a mild version of a minor pandemic in its own right. Pandemic is a thing opposed to the cause of a thing. So what causes a pandemic can be many different things. So we had Ebola almost blew into a pandemic.
You know what this really shows you?
What?
that you should really be doing a COVID compliance officer job, because these knowledge facts, man, let me tell you.
Dude, I got no patience for those type of systems. You know, we're gonna leave that to AJ Fordella, our dear friend. I think John Fukushima, you know, a brother from another mother. I think he just got his certification.
Yeah, I
Let
got
those
certified.
Guys, yeah,
it's
did you too?
fairly easy. I got
it's
certified.
a pretty straightforward
yeah,
thing.
It's half a day, and you know, you just stick to the protocols and make sure everyone
That's right.
in your jurisdiction at that time, if they make you the officer, sticks to the protocol. And I don't care, they say, they don't care if it's the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. You make sure they follow the protocol. You know, of course, you got to go through the chain of command, but that's your job.
Well,
Keep everyone safe.
Yeah, no, and it's there's a heavy responsibility in that, and it doesn't mean at the end of the day or the end of a given event that you got your compliance officer that's doing his job exactly right, that there won't be some transmission of a thing. This is, again, you know,
Preventative.
it's a reduction. It's a reduction. Basically it's known as harm reduction, and so you can reduce things. And we've been able, through careful planning and kind of keeping distance and being mindful of these things, have yet to have to deal with this. And hopefully that will be, you know, knock on wood, that we'll proceed to the end of this without ever personally encountering the condition.
And that's what it's all about, too.
But it wouldn't be that hard to, you know, it's literally just,
you know.
You just don't know.
Right.
And so at this point, you know, it's just err on the side of caution. I didn't take it as seriously, not from a science point of view. I always understood the science, but I was doing a mathematical equation based on percentages and the amount of people in America. Okay. And these numbers are starting to shift to a place where there's a tipping point which says to be more cautious, more careful, right. Even in the light of the vaccines that are coming, and the 2 vaccines and so on, and that are even out now, are starting to be dispersed. This is going to be, particularly for people like in our age group, you'll be one of the last people that it will be available for, because you're considered healthy, and the condition will affect you to a lesser degree if you were to get it. So you'll be maybe June before.
I'll be fine. I've slept in worse.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You ever been in the bathroom at an Ozfest?
I don't talk about
then
it.
You're going to be fine. That's all I can say. Everything in that bathroom was worse than anything.
I've eaten some lot cheeseburgers in my day.
Yeah,
I think
you know
it'll
what I
be
mean?
fine.
It's like, yeah. Listen, my friend.
Hey.
It was great to see you again.
Good to see you.
You look
always.
great. You got bright eyes. You know, you got a wonderful smile.
You look great too, as always.
Oh, I'm sexy as fuck. I can't
Yes,
help it. It just happened, you know. But literally, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experiences with the union. I'm a big fan
You're
of
a
organized
friend of the
labor.
union. You guys always have been.
Oh man, we are one of the companies. When we go to a union house, we work hand in hand with the people at the union. We call out for for coming and speaking to us about
pleasure.
on our
Thank
show.
you for all you and George have done for me. I mean, you pretty much are the foundation of my career too. So I have nothing but love for you, brother.
I appreciate that, and I'll tell you, the reason where you're at is because of good work ethic, good characters. There's parts of your personality that just shine through. You always make the place better when we work together, and I love you, man. And
love you too, brother.
It was our pleasure, you know. And we'll see you at a show sometime soon.
Yes,
thanks
let's
for coming
do
out,
it.
brother.
All right.
Right on.
My pleasure.
Listen, Kyle Thomas, let's do a little business in the house now. When we got this thing we did here, I want to say, 24 days from today, we're going to be having the Big Love benefit concert that we filmed and created right here in this very spot.
I'm very excited for it, man.
Yeah, I really wanted to do good. I see they're ramping up the advertising now, and they're starting to put out little teasers and things. It could be a really good thing. It's a Big Love benefit concert. It consists of Rick Allen and Lauren Monroe Allen from Def Leppard and her band. I guess it's the Big Love Band.
Big Love Band.
Yeah, and I was looking at some of the stuff we had created today. It's got the Poison guy. Help me. Who's the singer for Poison? Brett Michaels. Thank you, Mikey. And Brett Michaels and, you know, Billy Idol and Winona Judd and Cactus, her husband, and all these great people.
I haven't been watching. I see everybody else been editing it. I've been busy doing this install. I have no idea.
You know, you're taking care of this other business for us, and Mikey and Gregory Price have been editing it with some help with the publicity people and getting it all pushed together.
I just do monitors.
So
I don't know.
So, but you know, January 23rd. Nugs TV, we're going to have the Big Love benefit concert. It's a good time. There's some great music. There's some thoughtful presentations. We all had a part of it. I'm the voice of God in it. We put our hearts into it. We spent many, many weeks and a lot of production on it. We'd love for you guys to turn out and check it out. If you guys, we have a couple other Facebook groups that we'd like to mention. The Big Love Army, which is Rick Allen and Lauren Monroe Allen's page. It's a sweet page. It's a place where you go if you need a daily affirmation and kind of loving kind of sentiments. They're very kind, and they're good people over there. Go check it out. And of course, a Facebook group with a little bit more of a sensitive and timely subject matter that they deal with is Loving Hands for Stagehands. That's my brother's group with John Del Rio and a couple of the other brothers. Bob Powers, a legendary rigger, one of the best guys in the game, made this group because they saw a need where some of our people were struggling with some serious thoughts and maybe some bad thoughts and needed to have people there to kind of speak to you, look for some resources on how to get into a better place mentally. So go check those places out. If there's anything they can offer for you. Of course, Project Resiliency and Sweet Relief. They're good people. And Raven Drum. Go check them out. They're good to help out. I want to send up my love to our diehard loyal friends. I want to wish them a happy New Year to Charlie Zaricki, Noah the Beard Tanner, Pat O'Doul, just some solid, true brothers. Rizzo Pacific Staging out there, and I believe they're in Maui. Good guys, Frank Rizzo, William Snoopy Farquay, our dear Snoopy.
Snoopy.
You know, there's some of you guys. We really do this for you. We do it to play with the gear and hang out with our friends and have some fun, but also because we're reaching out to you. We miss you guys. We hope that you're doing well. We want you to go into the new year with a good head, and know that we're thinking about you. We've got some amazing guests coming up. I'd start blowing off names, but just trust me, you know I book well. I've got some serious heavy hitters coming up in the new year. We're booked up every Thursday, 7 p.m., right here on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. We will be here. We hope to see you here again soon. Have a great, happy, safe New Year. Thanks for coming out. Good night.